Hello and welcome to another update. In this one I'll be covering the latest news from the front line, specifically around Bakhmut. So we see here that there are two significant changes. First one is on the northern flank, where the Ukrainian forces have managed to push the Russian forces here to the river line to the north. This is actually very significant because they have now fully recaptured the trenches here north of the 00506 road. And they are now pushing northwards towards Yahidne and Berhivka, where they're trying to gain control over the southern river line and push northwards by the rail lines. So this is actually very interesting because this most likely indicates that the weather conditions are now optimal for these types of operations. We see that the Russian forces are being pushed back, and that is most likely from Ukrainian armored vehicles pushing through the flanks. And this is because the main force fighting on the Russian side is Wagner forces, so they don't really have much of armored vehicles themselves. Now, if we look at the weather conditions, we can see that for the next week, there is optimal weather, so there's not going to be any mud for the coming days. And if we look at Deep State map, we can actually see that most of the territory is according to them because the Russian forces retreated from these areas. Not that they were pushed back, but that they retreated. So this is actually most likely just a Russian withdrawal because they don't want to hold these forward positions due to their lack of manpower. So they don't want to withdraw to tighten the front line and make them less vulnerable on these parts of the front line. So the current situation is that the Russian forces are actually falling back to, if you look at the topographic map, falling back to the hills so that they have the high ground for when they are being pushed by the Ukrainian forces. They currently hold these positions, but most likely they'll withdraw from here as well, so that they either hold their front line here by the canal or they withdraw to Klishchiivka. So since the Ukrainian forces already have this location north of in the direction of Ivanivsky, we can assume that they may withdraw from the canal line because the canal line doesn't mean anything if they are just being flying from the northern side and get cut off, especially since there's this tight ring here that the Ukrainian forces can take advantage of to cut off the Russian forces. So essentially we see that the Russian forces here are vulnerable, so they may retreat from it. And the second update is actually within the city, where the Russian forces have actually managed to capture the Olympic School. So now the fighting has reached the last defensive line. This is the only line the Ukrainians now have left in the northwest. Since the Olympic School have been captured, they only have this left. The Olympic School was an important stronghold of the Ukrainian forces in northwest Bakhmut. And that is all for this update. Thank you all for watching and have a great day.